Howdy, mates. Top of the midday to you. Today marks Saturday, June 13th, 2026. And for my particular weekend, I'm on a bit of a nostalgic coastal getaway. Because I am on a unique coastal ecosystem that is on the island of Martha's Vineyard, which for me it has been about 20 years since I was last in this area. I do remember vaguely from when I was like between 6, 7 years old. I remember going with my parents, my brother, and also my grandparents, and among other family members who may have been with us. But as mentioned before, that was so long ago that I kind of remember. But something that my memory does not mistake in me is the dunes of Martha's Vineyard. And if you look this way, we have a unique feature that is called the Aquinnah Cliffs, which Aquinnah refers to the end of the land, according to the Wampanoag tribe. Please correct me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. It might be Wampanoag. Anyway, the Aquinnah Cliffs, they hold, even to this day, this site very sacred, because the Wampanoag highly regard a legendary figure by the name of Moshup, in which the story goes he had parted ways from the mainland of what is now known as Massachusetts, and he decided to incorporate his own village. And it's apparently at the Aquinnah Cliffs in which Moshup resides. And it is believed, according to the culture, that between the black, a bit of the red, and some of the mixtures of other colors comes from when Moshup, the giant, would pick up whales or fish and basically plop them alongside the cliffs. And so, for instance, the red clay that you see ahead, according to their culture, that's believed to be whale's blood, for example. Nevertheless, aside from the cultural aspect, in which the Wampanoag actually know Martha's Vineyard as Noepe, which basically roughly translates to island, but I'll be sure to check up on that. But basically, this ties into the fact that many of us know the island as Martha's Vineyard, which apparently comes from the fact that back in the early 17th century, even before the landing in Plymouth happened, an explorer by the name of Bartholomew Gosnold, he was one of the first recognized English explorers in this region of North America. And I say recognized because there could have been, and most likely, explorers even before him. But it is noted that upon his explorations out here, he did notice this island. And apparently, he decided to name it, which it is debated whether it was named after his daughter or his mother-in-law, both of whom shared the name of Martha. And then he also found wild grapes, which would basically be like sea grapes. And so he associated with finding the sea grapes as a vineyard. But apparently, the island itself doesn't really have any functioning vineyards, at least that I know of. And that apparently still stuck as the name. But for the native tribes that are recognized, whether it's the Aquinnah, which falls under the Wampanoag, it's still known as Noepe. So it really just depends what your roots entail. But nevertheless, according to the natural history though, Martha's Vineyard is an example of glacial drift, in which as the glaciers were advancing, more and more sediments were deposited in this area, thus creating the island. However, what makes the Aquinnah Cliffs so unique is the clay and bedrock that is exposed comes from both the Triassic and the Cretaceous periods. Oh yeah, and also Jurassic as well. And so much of this sediment is millions of years old. And apparently as the glaciers were advancing, it basically wedged these sediments upward. An analogy that I thought of was, think of it as like the vacuum is like a glacier, but sometimes as the vacuum comes up on the carpet, that carpet will sometimes curl upward as it makes contact with the vacuum. So think of it as the carpet is like the island or the land, and then the vacuum is like the glacier. And that is essentially, according to geologic record, what happened here. Thus, providing this wonderful exposure. So like I said, today has remained very nostalgic for me because I do explicitly remember observing these cliffs as a child, and that I had spent a time here with my family, and the fact that I made it work to come back as an adult is ever so gratifying. What a great day. Nevertheless, I hope you all enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there. And Journey on a Journey is onwards. See you later.